evening and welcome back to the long-awaited reunion of the Cast Not Dead podcast. Taking a bit of a break due to some hiatuses, and also we were not sure how to continue with the Syndrome series. We may still get back to that at some point through some means, but we thought of another interesting segue, so we thought we'd cover that, and we'll get into that in a bit. So this is DJ Wakura.
This is Infinite.
This is Quill.
And Common Sentai.
And I apologize in advance for the loudness of my cat, who's right now playing with a ball and hitting her head everywhere. So
I have to share the work. It's my cat. Oh wow.
Cats are integral to this podcast, as anyone who's listening is well aware. So I have two, and they're both kind of lucid right now, so I don't think they'll interrupt. But if they do, I apologize as well.
And well, I think she's just my cat's distracted on her end. I don't know where she went though. Oh wow.
So yeah, there was a interesting phase for Grasshopper where after finishing Killer 7, they kind of went into a little like second party phase for hire where they were like using other people's properties to make weird ass games. And among them was Blood Plus One Night Kiss, and games starting to become kind of a rarity for some reason. Samurai Champloo Sidetracked, which was both an adaptation, an original story, and something brand new after the events of the show, which was it was a PS2 game. I think so. If I recall that would be. Oh yeah, it's like during. Yeah, I recall how the series ends. It couldn't be after the show, so it'd be like I think it's like midway through the show, kind of like the Cowboy Bebop movie.
It really could be anywhere because this is a very just like, hey, stuff's happening. It's like the most filler-esque thing.
True, but let's precursor Samurai Champloo spoilers. If you haven't seen the show, bail out now. Doesn't one of the cast of the show die at the end?
No, nobody dies.
Yeah, nobody dies.
The main trio dies.
I thought Jin or Mugen died at the end, or it was strongly implied one of them died.
No, we don't.
I haven't seen the show.
Well, no spoilers here.
I haven't seen the show for like years, but I don't remember someone dying at the end. Maybe.
No, wait. I finished the show for the 5th time, like a month ago.
Yeah.
Maybe there was more of an integral antagonistic character, but I don't.
I think maybe you're just.
I know Jin and Mugen went their separate ways, didn't they?
Yeah, everybody went through their separate ways. Futu.
Which that makes sense.
Okay, so I guess it's possible, but if I recall, like Jin and Mugen kind of parted on a less than friendly note. If I recall, like they were not on good terms.
No, they were.
So, like didn't they fight?
No, they fought, but they tried to do a duel, but we didn't. And
essentially,
they got into a coma when they woke up. They just said, "Oh, I found a friend," and whatever.
Oh, okay. Well, then never mind. I guess there could be a take place after the show, but it's not really important.
They basically had a Mortal Kombat friendship win.
Okay. So you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been years since I played the game. But if I recall, it's like they're wandering around, looking for money and looking for work as usual, and they stumble upon drama.
Yeah, pretty much. There's really nothing really that concrete or big in the storyline for these characters. They just stumbled in.
Yeah, like something about those three.
Like the show does that.
Yeah, they just get into random situations, and Mugen in this game gets cursed by a witch, which for some reason that really didn't seem like that was that big of a deal in the end.
Yeah. So you start out, there's one of two playable characters. You can either play as Jin or Mugen, of course, and sadly you cannot play as Fu, which I consider a grave misjustice.
I'm kind of surprised it didn't do any like mini game section with her. Like,
yeah,
she just throws bombs or something.
Yeah, something. I mean, I don't expect her to be a playable character and actually fight, although it would be pretty badass if, like, hey, you make a fan fiction game, go with a full mind, have Fu become like a secret badass ninja girl, and she has like throwing daggers. I don't know, why not?
I think the most that she does is eat snow cones.
Yeah, she's just kind of there as the fan service character, which isn't really that unfaithful to the show, let's be honest.
I I don't know. I do remember that one episode that was really beautiful with her, the painter episode.
Oh yeah, she's definitely a strong part of the show, but for the most part, she is kind of the fan service vehicle.
Eh, I
She's
didn't
not
really
there to
see it like
kick
that
ass and
all
kick
the
names.
times, but again,
Not all the
I,
time, but quite a
I
bit.
could be maybe biased because the painter episode was my favorite.
Yeah, but she doesn't really get to fight. She just kind of hangs back and like, rah, rah, good job, guys.
I mean, yeah, she's the integral part. Yeah, integral part of the story because she's kind of the one who got these two together, basically.
Yeah, she's the spirit, but she's not really there to fight. She's there to, keep
Yeah,
everybody together.
which is fine. You don't need to force
Yeah.
every character to fight.
Well, I would have liked to have had her all of a sudden become the third playable character, and all of a sudden she's like a Kunoichi badass. I know it's not really fitting with the show, but I would have enjoyed it.
I'm pretty sure if they did make her a playable character, probably wouldn't be as fun because, I mean, they can't really go all out and make her like not the same as the show and give her like powers and whatever, make her be able to fight. If they do make her like a playable character, probably just going to be like some shitty escort missions or trail missions or the worst kind of missions in games, pretty much.
Yeah. She just eats. Just true to her character. And, well, the other characters too, because they love their food.
Yeah. And so there is a third playable character after you finish playing as Jin and Mugen, and it's a brand new original character, Do Not Steal, and if I'm recalling, his name was, let's see.
It was what a W. Wagyu?
Warso.
Warso Surumaki.
Which, I gotta mention, this now reminded me, like, the voice cast in this game is very interesting because it's just missing one person from the Lupin dubs.
Oh yeah, the game is dubbed. Correct me if I'm wrong, and I think the cast of the anime reprised their roles.
Not all of them, but yes.
But yeah, there was a glaring miscast. Now that you mentioned, I don't remember who it was, but I think there was clearly someone who got replaced.
Yeah, I think it's Liam. Is it Liam O'Brien as Mugen in the game?
Mugen was replaced. Steve Bloom didn't come back. He was voiced by Liam O'Brien.
And also, Fu wasn't the same, also too. I remember looking that one up.
I'm not seeing that Fu got replaced.
I remember looking that one up. It was not the same one because, funny enough, she would also be a No More Heroes character for the original Fu voice actress. She was Jean's actress in No More Heroes 1, which is hilarious because Steve Bloom was then Darkstar.
Wait, No More Heroes.
Wow.
Oh wait, I thought you were talking about Jean the cat.
No, I said 1.
No, the sister.
Yeah,
Jean
I was like,
probably
confused for a bit.
But
Come
I find
on,
that
I'm the
funny.
last one.
Both the characters who will be in future Grasshopper games are literally in the same scene then. And they didn't reprise their anime roles for a Grasshopper license game.
And licensing can be funky like that. Yeah, but I recall that Jin was definitely the same voice actor. I remember hearing, I was like, yeah, that's definitely him. You can't.
Yeah, it was still Kirk Thurton was still doing that one.
Yeah, and I don't think he voice acts much anymore.
He's more of a director now, but he also was voice directing this game as well when I saw the credits.
Oh, nice. So yeah, and Lex Lang did Warso. If you watched any anime in the 90s, 2000s, I'm sure you recognize that name. He was everywhere.
Yeah. Goemon Ishikawa, particularly, that's the one I know for.
And, also, just to go back to Kurt Thurton, I'm pretty sure he still voice acts a lot. If I'm not mistaken, he's still the voice actor for Shadow?
I think he is, yes.
Also,
maybe not for the shows and obviously the movie, but
it's also really funny because, like, if you Google, I don't know if it still does that, but if you Google Kirk, yeah, it still does that. Kirk Thornton, the first picture that shows up is just Nicolas Cage.
To be honest, now that you mention it, I can see it. They both kind of have that similar chin. But yeah, then another part of the English voice cast is interesting. The narrator and some of the shop people and some random NPCs, or I think even one of the bosses, is Tony Oliver, Lupin the Third himself. And then the witch is Fujiko Mine's voice actress, Michelle Ruff. But no Richard Epcar, though, in this game. Which I'm like, that's weird.
And speaking of sound, we can also mention the music. This was back when the Grasshopper Dream Team was pretty much still doing their games. So Masumi Takada still did the music. And Nujabes' music was used sporadically. He used the opening theme Battle Cry. And was Shiki Nuda in it? I'm not sure. I know Battle Cry was.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Fukuda was part of this one too.
No, what the song Shikinoda, the ending
song.
Was it?
Yeah, the end credit song. Like the most famous song of the game.
I don't think it was. I remember. I think the credits was a more sad, like kind of more of a.
Yeah. Also, I think the vocals
song.
Yeah, and also I think it was easier to license Battle Cry because it's an instrumental for the most part, and probably except for the rap, which I'm sure is. But anytime he's a Japanese vocalist, as I'm sure FSR fans know, licensing becomes dicey.
Yeah, that's the reason why none of the anime's music is here. It says due to difficulties with licensing, none of the anime soundtrack was used for the in-game music.
And at least they got Battle Cry. That was at least something.
Yeah, they got the opening. That's all they needed.
Sort of. So it's worth noting the opening was redone in CG, and it's like almost 1-1 the same opening, just done with CG. But some characters look really weird. Like Fu looks very Asian.
Her face gets kind of stretched for some reason, and then when you see the in-game models, it's like, oh, that's what she looks like.
Yeah, it's like for some reason they gave her a traditional Japanese, like very narrow-eyed look, and then in the game she looks normal Fu. I don't know if that was an aesthetic choice or someone.
That's probably just. I think maybe the artist just kind of went on his own thing.
Yeah, it's weird because up until that point, it's a pretty faithful recreation. It even has like them stand up the same way, the Battle Cry.
Yeah, and then mentioning the further getting into the whole licensing thing, we probably also mention Watanabe himself was a part of this. It could have just been mostly like a supervisor role for the most part, but he kind of was there to make sure things were kept in line and true to the show as best as possible.
Yeah, although how much he was involved is questionable. It's probably more of a, hey, wink, no, you can't do this. Yeah, you can do that. Sure, go ahead. It wasn't like he had a direct role in it. So, but hey, it's more than most get to do. Sometimes, like with him in the live-action Cowboy Bebop, he said he basically didn't get to do a damn thing. They just put his name on it.
Because, he said they have to because it's his property. But yeah, and from what I saw quickly from like quick little articles, stuff like that, the development seemed very smooth. No hiccups, no issues. It just kind of went well and everyone had a good time.
Did the game
sell well? Rare. Did the game sell well? I actually do not know that one.
That's a good question. I think it was just... I bought it when it came out. So if I recall, it came out at $30. It was a pretty cheap game. It wasn't full price.
And now these days, you can look through $100 for it.
Yeah, I think it was just considered like, the traditional anime license game, like, the Naruto games. It probably did well, but it wasn't like, instant greatest hits, although it probably wasn't as popular as the Naruto games, but, like the average anime license game.
I bet the licensor was happy, I bet.
Yeah. So,
Bandai, if I'm correct. That's Bandai Namco, I think.
Yeah, it was a Bandai Namco game.
Usually just how every cartoon game is by THQ, every anime game is by Bandai.
Kind of blurred together. If it hadn't been for Grasshopper, I probably wouldn't have gotten it. That's why I was hearing. It's like, oh wow, Grasshopper's doing the Samurai Champloo game. It's like, I wasn't a huge fan of the anime. I liked it. I respect it. I love the music, but I think it's a little disjointed. But I liked it enough to give the game a shot with Grasshopper being involved.
Yeah, to see my reaction, since it's my favorite show. It's like, Grasshopper did a game about my favorite show. When I saw the game, I was like, oh, that's really disappointing.
I might be an outlier in this, but I think the one reason I didn't like the show as much as I wanted is the first episode of the show is very out there. It's like mixing modern day with the classic samurai, and it's very tongue-in-cheek. Yeah, and it's so goofy and unpredictable. And then after that, it kind of just becomes a normal samurai show. It's still a good show, but it doesn't have that non sequitur, absolute off the wall craziness the pilot does. You know what I mean?
Which that got me thinking now. I wonder if Watanabe's inspiration for Samurai Champloo could have been Lupin on that, because I know he talked about with Cowboy Bebop back then. A big inspiration for that was, and very specifically, Lupin Part 1 series from the 70s, the early 70s. And kind of knowing how more grounded and a little more darker that one was in comparison to Part 2. I wonder if Part 2 was then the inspiration for a lot of Samurai Champloo's very anti-antics.
Or maybe like he was going to make it more like a Space Dandy,
You could even
off the
go
wall
part
type
3.
show, and at some point he dialed it back.
I don't know.
Because the pilot almost feels like Space Dandy with how goofy it can get with the random shifts to modern day.
I think it was just the opening shot with the modern day stuff. It was just the
Yeah,
introduction to everything.
I think it did some wacky transitions with this turntable scratching throughout the pilot, if I remember right.
Mhm.
So it kind of does have that modern vibe throughout, if I remember.
Yeah, we definitely need to talk about this then, because what the major show's aesthetic is based around Japan's fascination during hip-hop during that era.
Yeah, which is...
That's one of my
nothing wrong with
favorite
that.
things. Oh yeah, no, I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I think it's a very distinct thing, and that's maybe a good reason why I'd worked with Grasshopper as well, because that's a very
it's a good
they
one.
are pretty interesting in their music. Before, like Suda51 always bring up the Smiths and stuff like that, but I kind of wonder how he was during the hip hop era for Japan, like during the times like before this game was like Street Fighter Third Strike and particularly Street
True.
Fighter 3, like kind of seeing when that was being a big thing for them. And then Samurai Champloo, an anime that was very much keeping that in spirit, where Japan was just wanting to mix that into anything, no matter how, I should say, clashing it was.
Yeah, and also musically, I think Masumi Takada is a good choice for composing that kind of stuff, because listening to the FSR soundtrack, there's a lot of different techno and hip hop and all kinds of influences. So he's a chameleon when it comes to music.
Yeah, with Champloo, the thing is, Champloo like created the whole lo-fi trend.
Lo-fi,
Yeah,
And Nujabes became legend after he passed
Fat
away.
John,
Somehow
Force
he
of
just
Nature too.
lightning bolt. Yeah, like somehow his passing just had a ripple effect I've never seen. All of a sudden, everybody was listening to lo-fi hip hop.
Yeah, there's some artists, especially in Japan, that are just super huge. That sometimes you go like, "Oh yeah, that's right." Like David Bowie, like holy crap, David
I didn't
Bowie.
even know. Like I knew Nujabes was respected. I didn't know he was loved like that. I couldn't believe how much I was hearing his stuff after he passed away. Like everybody was playing it everywhere. Like I would go into phone stores and they'd be playing lo-fi hip hop after he passed away.
But then knowing how the kind of team kind of just worked naturally with this game, what's probably the next thing we should probably then segue into is definitely about the game itself, and especially how Suda talked about this game and the other one right before it, Blood Plus, One Last Kiss, and how important they were that some people probably do not know about.
Well, I know one of the few Grasshopper games that weren't localized at all.
Yeah, the Blood Plus one was
very
not,
hard.
Yeah.
It's also very hard to localize because someone's been posting on Twitter about how the code is and the graphics, and it's like all the Japanese text is like not a script; it's like hand done by character, so it would be a fan translation nightmare.
Yeah, which is I think it's.
Isn't it the same thing as Flower, Sun, and Rain, where it's also like weirdly translated or weirdly like
written? Yeah, it's like baked in,
coded in. Yeah,
yeah, it's like the kind of game they code where like, yeah, we're never going to release this anywhere but Japan. Who cares?
Yeah, I feel like Samurai Champloo, since it had an obviously Western aesthetic to it, they were like, yeah, we can sell this in the West.
Yeah, I think that was probably designed more for
huge, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was
But
more
plus,
popular here. Samurai Champloo, I think, was bigger
oh
here
yeah.
than it was in Japan.
Yeah, it was probably just same because of like stuff like Cowboy Bebop and stuff like that. Kind of Watanabe's work just did better in America,
Yeah, didn't
mostly
like Space
because
Dandy
Adults.
come out before in America than Japan or something like that?
I think it
No,
was
it came
simultaneous.
out the
It debuted on
same.
Adult Swim, didn't it?
Yeah, debuted on. I think Space Dandy like came out a few hours before the Japanese version because of like time differences or whatever.
Oh,
But
okay.
it was just coming out like dubbed on Adult Swim and non-dubbed
I thought it
on
was like
Japan.
basically a
Lupin
simulcast.
Part 4 situation where it just came out beforehand in Italy for some reason. And
Well,
then-
Italy loves. I think
Yeah,
the
we
big
do.
reason why for that one, it's also because they straight up use Italy as a setting, so they had to be, get some copyright things and have to negotiate about that.
Yeah, we love Lupin. The opening sucks in Italian. So bad.
Oh, I heard that. I know. And the English, then they do it right in English too.
You need to understand the lyrics. They're so bad.
Ugh. Just give me the Yuji Ono instrumentals all the time, please.
Yeah, but we don't. I don't know why.
Which sucks. Part 4's opening is really good. Such
Oh.
good instrumental mix.
Whatever.
So, yeah, so the game is Sidetracked. So I should probably mention it's been years since I played, but I know Common Sense I just recently finished. So, which route did you pick first?
I went with Jin. I always like Jin more.
Me too. I like Jin a lot.
I'm the opposite. I love Mugen.
I like
Mugen
Mugen too,
guy
but it's very much a yin and yang. Like the show needs both of them.
And I didn't then just go one route completely. I went back and forth, sort of like Silver Case method.
Does that work for Samurai Champloo? Because if I recall, I think I did the route in its entirety. Then I went back and did the other route. Then I unlocked the third route.
I think the third route just unlocks if you complete one route in general.
Yeah, well, I did both. Like, does it lend itself well to going back and forth, or
Not
playing all at once, or
really.
does it not really matter?
Doesn't really matter.
Okay.
They're very
'Cause I
kind
know
of
there's
nonsensical.
and you're not doing much retreading or playing the same levels between the two, are you? Or is it a lot of similarity?
It's the final level, 100% for sure. Yes, everyone had the same final level.
Yeah, I recall there was some differences.
Yeah, mostly people have different paths, but they obviously use similar, obviously, backgrounds and scenery. Like you always see a forest, you'll see a winter forest, you'll see the big castle in the background. You'll be in the city for some moments.
So it kind of reminds me, I don't know if anyone's ever played the game Folklore. It had a similar thing with two different characters, and you'd have to unlock the final one after you finish both of them. And that game was Backtrack City. Playing both back to back would be very frustrating.
Or then you'd also be like the weird, I think it was episode 4 for both of them, for both the two main characters, where they had a weird dream sequence where I don't even want to know why that was a thing, especially why Mugen's whole background was a Super Mario 1-1.
I don't remember that.
It was straight up Mario Bros. I am not joking.
Wow.
I
So,
am
and
just like,
welcome
what?
And also, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but also, Mugen has a breakdance style, and Jin's is more of a traditional samurai fighting style.
Yeah, I would definitely say Mugen's a lot very loosey-goosey, and Jin is a more stance character. And I gotta say this in personal stance, I remember writing that in my post. I hated how Mugen played. I hated it.
I think I recall I had a lot more fun playing as Jin, although the third character, if I recall, I liked playing as him. He was definitely unique. I forget how he played, but I recall liking it.
Basically, Warsaw was kind of mix of the both. He can be a bit loose and deep into his combos, but he definitely had a lot of cool coverage and AoE kind of effects sometimes, so that really helped him out. Mugen was just all over the place, and I feel it doesn't help on any of the characters. The lock-on, when you try to work with that, can be really weird, since it's all auto lock-on.
And speaking of combos, you'd be remiss if we didn't mention one of the more innovative things. It's definitely the spirit of Samurai Champloo is that it has turntables that you use to switch styles while you're fighting, and it also changes the music, if I recall.
Yes, you pick different vinyl tracks as your combo routes.
Yeah, definitely
And
a cool idea. And getting to the
and
show.
it's funny enough, through this mechanic, there's something in there that would sooner pop up in No More Heroes 3, which is tension. Where the better you're doing in combat, you expand your combo route.
Or
Wait,
like rewards you for
it has
staying.
that
Didn't it have
mechanic?
some kind of rhythm game system where it rewards you for keeping the beat of attack somehow? Or the
I
combos?
unsure. I forget. I think it really just kept going up based on blood, like based on how you're doing in combat, like how many times you're hitting someone. But I could be incorrect on that. I just remember when it went away, I kept getting every time I kept getting hit like too many times, the red squares would go away. But then sooner or later, after I like kill someone or do better in combat, it pops back up.
Okay. Yeah, I think if I were now I'm recalling a little more, I think I was disappointed they didn't use the rhythm as much as I wanted. Like it's just kind of like window dressing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it basically was a window dressing. Like you're not actually in rhythm all the time. You definitely can see how everything flows out. So you can actually kind of like plan ahead, going like, oh, I'm gonna have like obviously end frames when I'm done with all this. So don't maybe go to that one. Just keep mashing square for a while.
Yeah. Like maybe at some point they planned on doing something more involved and impressive and stylized, and they just didn't have the time or the budget to make it work. Like it
Yeah,
kind of has that
possibly.
feeling, like it was a little unfinished, maybe,
I
or they
wouldn't
didn't
say
want to
it
get
was
too ambitious.
I want to say it's unfinished by any means. It's a licensed game in the end, so that most they probably had a year or less than a year in development. Because you got to churn them
Yeah,
out. You got to go boom, 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 boom.
yeah, and I think that's why probably Grasshopper and Suda to an extent like kind of fell away from doing licensed games because it's not, for one thing, it's you have to churn them out so fast to strike while the iron's hot, and another thing is, you can't be as creative when you have to stay within someone else's confines.
I'm also pretty certain the only reason why they did these two games during that time was just get a little extra money for their personal projects.
Yeah, so nothing wrong with doing it for that reason, but it can still be, I imagine, a stressful experience.
But yeah, and it's definitely evident that not only the money, but those games' development in general helped No More Heroes to be made to what it is. No
True,
question.
and also they probably got experience from making those licensed games. Like, okay, this is what works, this is what doesn't, and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
Like,
Suda himself has called Blood Plus, Samurai Champloo, and No More Heroes his hack and slash trilogy.
interesting. And correct me if I'm wrong, but also Blood Plus has a similar aesthetic vibe to Killer 7 and No More Heroes, doesn't it?
Yes, 100%. There's the gaming Brit. He did a great video on Blood Plus, and basically, yeah, it's like the middle ground between Killer 7 and No More Heroes. You get the
No.
Killer 7 aesthetic and look, but you obviously get the more hack and slash combat you would have found in No More Heroes.
Mm-hmm. Although,
And
speaking
then
of aesthetic, yeah,
obviously the insert character for that game could have just pretty much been prototype Travis.
that too. Speaking of aesthetic, we can't really mention Samurai Champloo without giving props. Probably the coolest thing in the game is the little, I think it was like a rage meter kind of thing, or when your meter would hit a certain amount of level and you could activate it, and you would go into a like pretty much invincible mode where you could just kill everything in one hit. If I
Yes.
recall.
Yeah,
And
like Jin had a pretty easy one where it's just a lot of square mashing, and then it's highlighted with a yellow outline over the combo route where it's basically a big rune clear.
yeah, and if you've ever seen Kill Bill Volume One, it's pretty much 1-1 to the part where Beatrix is killing all the guys in the silhouette room in that restaurant where everything's in that
Oh,
weird blue color.
Oh, you're talking about that one. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah,
a little
yeah, that.
more. That's a little more complicated. It's like you're going through the level. If you keep hacking and slashing, killing people, there will be a random foe that will pop out with stars over him. You hit that, you get to a QTE prompt, then you mash for the life of you. And if you get 100 slashes on that guy, then you enter this rave little mini game where if you get hit 3 times or 4, depending how well you're doing, you get kicked out of it and you still get rewarded a smaller reward. But yeah, it's this huge rave section kind of based around these sliding doors. And they change
And,
colors all the time.
and every I think every 10 kills or so would change colors and the doors would close and you'd be in a different room,
Yes.
something like that.
And
Yeah, and also speaking of rave, the music is literally like right out of Rave On from Killer 7. It sounds like it could have been a sequel to it.
which is interesting. Actually looking up the track itself, that has a very slow beginning. Which that beginning part of the track doesn't even play in the game.
Yeah, it's been years since I played, so you're welcome to correct me, but I recall it being, and much like Rave On Killer 7, you don't actually get to hear it for that long, or it has a very, like if you're not good at the minigame, you're not going to hear the whole song. Like if you Rave On, if you run through the corridor, you're only going to hear like 10 seconds of it.
Oh yeah, if you get hit immediately by like certain enemies, they can combo 1, 2, 3 so quick. But it's complicated because during the combo route, there's another mechanic where in the combo routes there's something highlighted with a red square outline. And whenever you get to that part of the combo path and hit that particularly and hit the person, you enter what basically was like the killer is dead mechanic, where you're all of a sudden like red screen and everything's fast. You actually, if you remember that combo path when you're in the Rave On minigame section, if you hit that while during that, you're basically invincible then. You are super fast. You are going light speed around every edge of the screen and just killing people.
Nice.
You need to find that and remember it though, since you don't see the combo path anymore. Which I found that to be quite a little evil because it's something that can change on you. So when you think you have it memorized, it's like, nope, it's somewhere else. Good luck and find it.
Mm-hmm. And all 3 characters have access to that bonus minigame, if I recall. Like everyone has it.
Yes, it is for everyone. Like all the mechanics are for every character.
And didn't it stop at? I think the max is 100 kills, or did it go beyond that?
No, yeah, 100 was the max, and then you get rewarded with a sword that you still have to buy from a store. So what was the point?
Pretty much. So yeah, if I were, you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, but as far as the story goes, isn't it like they're trying to get some work and they're trying to hunt down someone, or they get falsely accused of something? They're trying to clear their name, or am I misremembering?
A lot of things happen. They get attacked by some clan because there's like this clan war going on. Mugen gets attacked by a witch and gets cursed by one, so now he has to do something about that, so he just gets dragged in. And then Jin just kind of follows around going like, well, might as well see what's going on. And soon this, again, Warsaw just comes out of nowhere going like, you get the blue orb, you get the red orb, you do it. And they're just like, what?
Yeah,
and
now I
then
think.
and through the shenanigans, other people just come to them going like, yo, I want to fight.
Yeah, so you kind of remind me of having one of my complaints is I recall that Jin and Mugen's story wasn't really that interesting. I felt like they didn't really have all that much plot. They just kind of fall into it. Whereas
Yeah.
the lion's share of the plot is in Warsaw's route. That's when it's mostly the story gets moving. It's an original plot, as opposed to Jin and Mugen just kind of riding along.
Yeah, it's very much kind of that. They just get dragged along and other people just attack them randomly. And oddly enough, one of the characters that Mugen fights particularly is a guy with like mannequin parts, like false parts, and he's throwing explosives all around and even having pitfall traps in his level, which I'm like, huh, that's just Holly Summers. It's literally just Holly Summers.
And also, the game was rated T, so I'm pretty sure it wasn't that violent. It was pretty much toned down.
Yeah, they kind of think of it like when think about the sliding door kind of thing, think about like kabuki theater where like obviously some violence would not be shown on stage, kind of like that. It had to be stylish or cleverly hidden.
Yeah, and Samurai Champloo was pretty much a teen-ish show, so you're not going to make an M-rated blood and guts of fun and alienate the possible fans. Although I'm pretty sure kids weren't really playing Sidetracked anyway, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, who knows? Like some 5-year-old could have played that when it first released. It's like that was my childhood game.
I remember I played a lot of like teen-rated games, maybe even like mature-rated games that are just like based off of other IPs as a kid that I didn't even know they were based off IPs, but I would always love them as a kid, especially when they would have their own like special art style or whatever.
Yeah.
The first like one of the first licensed games that I played was like a Dragon Ball game, and I didn't even know Dragon Ball was like
Oh my
Dragon
god,
Ball.
that's the greatest thing.
I think I knew it was a Budokai one, but I don't know if it was like Budokai 2 or 3. I just remember buying it. I'm like, whoa, these characters are really awesome. What do you mean there's an anime? What do you mean? What do you mean it's a giant franchise?
Funny you mention that because I think my first licensed anime game I ever played was Ranma 1/2 Card Battle for the Super Nintendo, and I had no idea it was based on an anime. And then I found out it was based on anime, and then I went and rented Volume 1 of Ranma 1/2, and then I found out the maker of Ranma 1/2 made all this other stuff, and from there the gateway spiraled around and around.
Also, there was the Warriors game on PS2, which was made by Rockstar.
Ah, yes, that's a solid game. I don't think it's just like an incredible game like people say it is, but it's definitely good for what it is.
I mean, again, I was just a kid who was really new into gaming, especially like 3D gaming. So I never played that many beat 'em ups before, and it just blew me away as a kid. I'm pretty sure if I go back to it now, I'm like, this is fine.
Yeah, and to be fair, the bar for licensed games is really low. So if you played one that was even kind of worth playing or unique and did something new, it's like, wow. Like Samurai Champloo is by no means a classic, but for a licensed game, it takes a lot of experimental things, and I appreciate it for that.
Yeah, that's definitely the biggest thing I took from it too. Like, wow, definitely rough around a lot of edges. It was very stylistic, still true to the company, and also still true to the source material that they were using it on, which you don't see that often, where everything just kind of works. Wow. Not everything works because the game can be a bit clunky, which, again, it's still a journey that I loved kind of experiencing, though, even with the very annoying things like particularly again those dream levels where oddly enough that's when Mugen fights the witch because Mugen goes into his own dreams to fight the witch, which yes, that's basically a killer is dead plot point that gets used later on again, but the fight, oh my god, that one sucked. Imagine the white sheep man from TSA basically, but like as a Toho boss. It gets there are so many projectiles flying at you. The screen is filled with them. Fireballs just going all over the place. I'm just like, how? I died like 18 times in total to that boss.
So, by the by, speaking of it being a tie-in, did you play? Do you have a physical copy of it, or did you just have a disc of it, or how did you come across the copy of the game?
I got a physical, and I think it was through eBay, and I basically got it for like 60, $70.
Nice, and it has the book and everything.
I forget about that part. I don't think it did have the book though.
Okay. Well, I still have my copy from when I bought it, and so I decided to look through the book for tips, and it's very heavily cross-marketed. Like, it even says in the back, the anime is now available on DVD from Bandai Entertainment. Pick up the soundtrack on CD, the manga on Tokyo Pop. So, yeah, this is
Tokyo
clearly
Pop.
Wasn't
a
the manga
very...
cancelled? after like 2 volumes.
Oh,
was
yeah.
I do have it. I got it.
There,
It says
no, the
Samurai
weirdest part
Mashup
is
is now a best-selling manga.
the manga came out before the anime, surprisingly enough.
It did.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
weird.
it was only for like 2 volumes.
Yeah,
I never read it. I don't know if it's like following the same plot or
I
what
read
it's
it
doing,
for a bit.
but
It's kind of the same plot. Like it's
Oh, wait.
episode 1, but
And-
From what I'm reading here,
Yeah.
unlike many anime series, Samurai Champloo did not originate with a manga. Rather, the manga was created after the anime and to some degree based on it.
but
Was it
it released
cancelled?
before the anime, if I'm not
Huh.
mistaken. Let me make sure. Okay.
It could be like that weird companion piece thing they tried to do, which oddly enough, I had another discussion about that because Yu-Gi-Oh! GX had the same thing where they have a
Yeah.
manga for it, but it's not really based on the anime whatsoever, and it just does its own thing.
Like
And
a
even
companion piece.
it just
Yeah,
throws you in too and just goes like, yeah, it's a dual school. These are the characters. They know each other. You got it.
The manga
Yeah.
came out 3 months before the anime.
Interesting.
Yeah, usually it happens there. Like when you have like Madoka Magica, was an anime project, and later on they made a manga based off it.
But yeah, for the most part, though, the Samurai Champloo as an anime itself was very much its own beast, and I guess the manga was also its own beast.
And
It's only 2
it also
volumes long.
and there's also a film manga, which I guess is the DVD of watching the manga. If you don't like to read books, I guess. I have no idea. I've never even heard of a
We got
film
a
manga
comic
before
dub
reading
for
this.
the Samurai Champloo.
I guess it says three episodes and bonus features. And yeah, $9.99 full color. And also there's live help available online. Wow, that's convenient.
Can we contact them now?
Yes, it says email support@namco.com, or we can contact them directly. So yes, tell them we want help on Samurai Champloo, and there's probably one guy sitting by the phone who's been waiting for this day.
But train of thought. But a lot of the Samurai Champloo game though it's interesting looking back at it and then kind of realizing how much it helped Grasshopper later on, even to a point where there's even that little connection of the voice actor thing in Japan because Mugen's Japanese voice actor is Travis's Japanese voice actor, which is
That's actually a good question. Is there a was the game the Japanese version of the game? Did it have the Japanese voice cast?
Yeah, the Japanese version. The Japanese version had all the main cast.
Which, I mean,
Nice.
obviously, yeah, it was easy to do in Japan.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is before you had dual language. It was either dub or nothing. So I'm pretty sure there's no Japanese track on the US game.
Yeah, no, you only had the English, and they only showed the English credits, too.
Yeah, that's sad. And for the record, the dub it's solid. Not everybody comes back, but I don't recall it being the voice acting being bad. It's just like different. Like you're a little disappointed when you recognize it, but it was 90s your aughts dub. It was fine.
2000s actually.
Yeah,
So
it's 2000s. But it had 90s
Yeah.
attitude, I think is what he's meaning.
Yeah,
yeah.
but it's fine. It was nothing offensive. It's not like you're playing Castle Shikigami. The voice acting is terrible. It's an anime dub. It's fine.
Or like the Orphan game where Quentin Flynn voiced the main character in that one, and he's doing a
God.
horrible job.
Wasn't that a PS2 launch game?
I think. Which
Yeah,
I'm not gonna. I don't think Flynn was doing bad on purpose. He was probably just giving shitty direction, which happens a lot with these, some projects where directors like, we need to get it out. Just do it.
Yeah, with a PS1 game, it's part of the charm. Like, if you're playing a PS1 game, it's going to have a very stilted dub where we have to go this way and do that thing. Good job. I think when the PS2 came out, the standards were a little higher.
Yeah, standards came a little higher, but there were definitely some people who would do Russian in and sometimes just had to have English just because, hey, this anime has an English dub, so we obviously need to have English. And again, there's always going to be bad voice acting in current media. Like, look at the drama right now with the whole
Yakuza thing.
Kiryu, where again, my take on that. I'm not blaming the voice actor. It's like a lot of the problem was on casting and directing. You get a guy in his like 20s to early 30s, I don't know his exact age, doing a man who's in his 50s to 60s, and you don't see a red flag.
Yeah, and it's usually with the female voice actors the opposite. You'll have an older woman who's doing all the kids.
Yeah, that's because they can still relatively keep a higher pitched voice than most men, where most men, when they get older, they get raspy. Like,
yeah, exactly. Like, Bart Simpson and Lisa Simpson are still voiced by the same women, which that's wild.
And a lot of the whole voice actor loyalty thing is very interesting and how it differs here and there, especially seeing the English version of our game couldn't even get two of the main characters voiced by the same people.
Yeah, Japan, I think it's expected that if you're assigned to a character, that character is yours for life. Like, replacing him is blasphemy. Like, it's unthinkable. You are that character.
Yeah, sometimes to very bad degrees, where even if someone passes away and stuff like that, so when someone new comes, you still get very elitist fans about it. But it's just like, like Tien and Bulma and Dragon Ball, when their voice actors
for
passed
Jigen,
away.
like his son that replaced him?
No, I don't think it was.
So
But
I
it was.
did think I heard something about it.
It was the guy's name is Asano. I forget his last name. I forget his whole name. But a lot of people were generally happy with his transition to that, because I think people were ready to move on from Jigen's at the time. Because even Kobayashi, the original voice actor, was like going, I'm in my 90s. Like, of course it's sounding raspy, and of course it's sounding rough. I'm old. Like, it happens. So I think people were more happy to move. Well, not happy, but agreeable to move on from him because he was doing it since 1969. That's insane, and he had 1 year retirement, 1 year only.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for a while there was like an unwritten rule that like if a voice actor died, the character would die with them. That's usually what they did, and then. I think around the time,
not really. I don't think there was any rule on that. Maybe it was kind of like an unwritten one, and maybe some companies are just worried to do that, like with Heihachi.
Yeah, Heihachi was when I realized, like, wait a minute, I thought he was being killed off out of respect, and then they danced around it with the younger Heihachi, and then Jinpachi, and then Tekken 7 was like, nah, never mind, he's back. We just recast him. Screw it.
Yeah, but he died in Tekken 7.
Yeah. But now he's possibly back as a girl. I know.
Yeah, he came back.
Well, we don't know.
Yeah, Tekken lorists are welcome to correct me if I recall. He died in Tekken 5 or 6, came back as the evil Jinpachi, and then he was revived as young Heihachi.
Is his dad.
No. Yeah, Jinpachi is the daddy.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's Heihachi's dad.
And, well, at some point he came back as young Heihachi. I remember that. I know it was like
it was probably the tag series.
Yeah, no, the tag series is all a dream.
Oh yeah, it was the tag series. Yeah, he was
Wait,
young
tag
Heihachi.
series aren't canon?
No.
Yeah, no, they're not.
They're not canon.
How was the sumo guy called?
Ganryu.
Ganryu. It's all Ganryu's dream because he wanted to do a tag team with Julia.
Yeah, he can
or
play
something like that.
Julia. Oh god, I was so disappointed they made Julia a wrestling character because Julia's my main. I was like, what did you do to her?
Don't worry, she's back now as normal.
Yeah, I made her in Tekken 7. Yeah, I love her new design. Couldn't be happier.
Ganryu incarnate.
Yeah, Ganryu. It was a dream. I think it was both of tag games. I'm sure about tag 2. I don't know about tag 1.
Yeah, it's like you can play as June
in
the tag games.
Yeah, they're not canon.
Yeah, she was dead at that point until they brought her back in 8.
June?
June.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we don't.
I rather said, I never said she died.
Yeah, but that's the first time she was playable.
It's one of those things where she could have just been quote unquote dead just to be invisible kind of things. Mm-hmm. But
So also, funny thing is, since I have the copy, the marketing on the back says there's no such thing as a free lunch. Hungry, cold, and broke, on their search for the samurai that smells of sunflowers, Mugen, Jin, and Fu are on the hunt for food, and it costs them more than they bargained for, in the northern land of Ezo, where the danger awaits in the form of curses, witches, and brawls. Just another day for the Motley Crew.
Which is funny. Curses and witches. The curses and witch are together basically, and it only happens once, and barely is a big thing.
Well, with curse and witch, I guess wouldn't be as exciting.
Yeah.
There's a curse and a witch. Includes one witch.
But yeah. Samurai Champloo. Then again, how the whole game paces out and everything. It's straight up No More Heroes again in terms of like the layout, where you have this small little hub environment where you can go to shops, get new weapons, get new vinyl tracks, do little mini game stuff, and then you go off and do your big mission, and even the whole linear path of just slashing a bunch of dudes and keep going. And even there's even health drops and tension helpers and blade durability stuff if you have different equipable swords because they can break. Like, so many of these pieces is just like, yeah, no, this is No More Heroes. I think even some of the HUD layout from Samurai Champloo is similar to beta No More Heroes HUDs in terms of some of the colors and such. So again, it's very peculiar how much of this game is prototype No More Heroes.
Yeah. And I think what keeps them being as compelling as No More Heroes. No More Heroes, you'd look forward to the next wacky, crazy, unpredictable boss or story, and no really way of knowing which way the story's going to go. Where Samurai Champloo, if I recall, is nothing very like original or enthusiastic about the boss. It's just kind of like you're fighting another guy or
some of the bosses. They can be eventful, not for the right reasons. So, like one of Mugen's bosses, well, two technically, because you fight them right after the other, which is like a bunch of monkeys and a monkey gang leader. Don't ask. And then this demon, this Oni, pops out of nowhere, and oh my god, I hated this guy because you fight this Oni not once, not twice, not thrice. You fight him 4 times. The 4th one doesn't really count because you just get the super move to unlock and just kill him with that. But you have the monkeys you have to fight, and then you fight the Oni 3 other times. And luckily, if you die at the Oni, you just start at the first phase of the Oni. But it's still like, what the heck? Why am I doing this for so long? I don't know what they were thinking with some of these boss layouts, because, as I said, they get weird, they tire you out, and the levels get long, exhausting. Because the only ways to progress through levels sometimes is a Killer 7-esque door where you have to get a certain amount of items to get through, which the Koban coins. And Koban coins are only acquired by killing people over and over and over and over again.
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head with some of the problem with a lot of their hack and slash games is they get repetitive and they're not very fun to play at repetition. Like, if you don't mix things up, they just get dull.
And that's probably why No More Heroes 1 particularly had the little mini game sections in their levels, or, spice it up by, like, having a motorcycle section. And then No More Heroes 2, when Suda wasn't around as much, they obviously didn't do that and just made linear hack and slash levels.
Yeah, so I guess that also factors in the Samurai Champloo being a learning experience. They learned, like, okay, we need to mix it up. Just doing this over and over is going to get boring, and people aren't going to play it.
And I'll definitely say this, they definitely smoothed out a lot of how the bosses played out, because there's definitely a lot of questionable bosses. I can probably barely list the good ones, because there's a lot of troublesome ones, in my opinion.
I don't remember a single thing about the game besides the Kabuki Theater black and white segments with the colors and the doors and the record mixing. I don't remember, and I remember the third character. So I think it's pretty telling. You're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, that I don't remember any of the bosses at all. Nothing is memorable.
So I will say, I won't say it's not fully unrememberable. Again, it depends on how you were. Like, sometimes I was kind of getting a little fumed, I will not lie. I was getting a little angry, but then actually finishing it, there was that moment of relief or even laughter from it. Like Warsow's final boss, where he's this weird BDMS buff dude who, damn, he was a tank. And he could also heal his health back. It was tiring. But when you get the final strike on him and it brings up the kill screen, it stays on there for very long, and the character starts monologuing to you, the player, and he's like going like, I bet you're thinking, who the hell was this guy? Like, weird, right? And then he just goes away. That moment just made me laugh a lot because it generally gave me that feeling of like they knew what they were doing. They knew. And they made a joke out of it at the end, which, hey, it got me.
And speaking of mini games, by the way, the 100 splashes mode is called trance mode. Looking at the manual to jog my memory, and it's using the font a lot like Killer 7's. The slash thing looks a lot like the blood fonts in Killer 7.
Yeah, 100% for sure. But essentially, think more of like especially how fast it gets. Think of like Killer is Dead, oddly enough.
And as far as mini games go, there's the Power Eating Championship where you get the long-awaited playable food.
Which I think it basically plays out like the mashing thing I mentioned with the rave sequence thing, the trance mode.
Yeah. And of course, and this is going to really fall into place for Suda's obsessions, beetle wrestling. Suda loves his wrestling.
Well, it's not only that, beetle wrestling actually was a common pastime for a lot of kids back then.
True. I don't remember this being in the game at all. The book is jogging my memory.
It's basically a gambling sequencing. I only did it once because I'm going like, oh, it's just chance, basically. Like they will tell you like what your chances are. Like, oh, if you put money on the weak beetle and that wins, you get like a 10 times multiplier. If you do the obvious winner, you just get like a 2 times multiplier. So it's just like, well, I'll put my money in. Hopefully, I win.
Well, kind of like the real thing, I assume.
Yeah, most likely. Like a lot of. Well, beetles are interesting in that regard because they can put a lot of weight on that horn.
I have never wrestled beetles, but I will take your word for it.
Well, I haven't done it. I haven't done it myself, but there's videos online where sometimes you see the smaller one just completely flip a guy who's like 2 times his size.
Nice.
Also, I'm pretty sure they included the beetle wrestling thing because of like how popular it was at the time during in Japan, since there was like a Sega arcade game called Mushi King, the King of Beetles.
Yeah, I know why you're thinking that too, because of Yakuza.
Not Yakuza, no. Actually, I played this as a kid when I went to Malaysia.
Oh wow!
And I didn't know what the fuck was going on. All I remember was like rock paper scissors.
Yes.
And you played it, and then you get a card. And I remember my mom got really mad at me because I wasted so much money just collecting so many cards. It was gambling, but it was really fun.
But yeah, a lot of the Beatles stuff, again, it's sort of like how Beyblade is based on. It's an old pastime for the olden days where kids would spin the wooden tops or, hey, make these Beatles fight. And obviously, even the Beetle fighting inspired Pokemon and stuff like that. It's just there's always like this long history of things, which is very fascinating to me for Japanese entertainment. But, other than that,
were there any other mini games besides those two? Because that's all the book mentions.
No, that was it then. That was it for the mini games.
Same. And also, this may come as a surprise, or it may not, but as far as I can tell, in no way, shape, or form is Grasshopper credited anywhere on the case or in the packaging.
Yep.
Just Bandai Namco.
Yep. That happens a lot with licensing games.
Oh yeah, it's just I guess you accept that. You'll get credited on the splash screen, I'm sure, but you're not going to get it in the packaging.
Which is weird, but like I remember, Transformers Devastation. That's another game where they just had the publisher, even though it's done by Platinum Games.
Yeah, well, you'd think that would actually be a good thing. Like having platinum on there is basically a selling point, whereas opposed to grasshopper, not so much.
Yeah, well, you say that now for platinum back then. Now these days, it's probably not as much.
No, not so much, but back then.
Yeah, no, Bandai Namco still does that, even like with their new anime games. I know they did that with the My Hero Academia games. I think they still do that with Naruto games.
I bet they
Oh.
probably still do that for any Kamen Rider game and such.
Yeah, it's just the nature of the beast. Sadly, you just accept it. You get it's like being a ghostwriter. You're not going to get any credit, but you get your money. So shut up and go away.
You have to use the alias name. You have to use Hate Saburo.
Yeah. And also, I think this is when Bandai Namco first started using that new logo, which is now gone. The weird orange and yellow overlap. When well, I think this is when they merged. It was right around when this happened. I think it was close
because
to
the old Bandai was just a red square thing, and it still does pop out around these days. Basically, only for the toys.
I think they still use it. It's an iconic logo, and I'll never understand why companies want to get rid of iconic logos. Like, can you imagine if Capcom got rid of the yellow and blue? It'd be insane. That's their logo.
Yeah, now these days, Bandai Namco has that like kind of what is it, like a light purple, but mostly all white now, and just their name.
I think it's just like a long line of Bandai
looks like
Namco and
a
black
speech
text.
bubble of sorts.
Yeah.
It was just really bland and boring. Like even the font that they use is just so
modern corporate logo. Just be
which
very
sucks now because I incorporate that yellow orangey one with Jin and Kazuya about to duke it out. Now that's gone.
Like even Konami, like when they changed their logo from the classic logo, it sucked. But even the new logo is still kind of iconic. It had the red dagger. Like it was a unique thing. Whereas Bandai Namco is just going out to be as generic as possible.
And Grasshopper still keeps their logo. They changed it one time, and that was when they put Travis's head on it.
And they still, then also some of the older games has the old school Grasshopper logo, which I respect.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, they actually did change the logo one time before. That is right. It used to be like this big rectangle.
Yeah, it used to be a 2D Grasshopper, and then it became the Grasshopper with the weird head.
Yeah. Which, it still very much keeps a very quote-unquote punk aesthetic, very loud. Which is definitely what their style is. Loud, original, unique, outlandish, and sometimes can be rough around the edges, but hey, they went a path because they want to discover something. They want to go like, what is something that someone didn't do? We're doing it. No matter how rough it is.
And so Samurai Champloo was Blood Plus, then Samurai Champloo, then No More Heroes. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and what was the gap between Champloo and No More Heroes? Like a couple of years?
A year? I think even less than a year.
2006.
I think No More Heroes.
When did No More Heroes come out?
Wasn't 2008 for No More Heroes?
Was it? I thought it was 2007. It could have been very late 2007.
Oh, let me check.
No More Heroes 1.
Yeah, 2007.
Yes. Yep, December 6th.
In 2006, it was Samurai Champloo, Contact, and Blood Plus.
Oh yeah, Contact. I forgot about Contact.
And then Contact, like, it's weird. It says it was like developed by Grasshopper, but it's also the same thing where it's like Grasshopper's not on the
this just shows the publisher Atlas.
Yeah, Atlas or Marvelous in Japan. But yeah, after Blood Plus, it was No More Heroes, and then the next year was Fatal Frame.
Yeah. Which, hey, that's out now. That got remastered, which can't say that for these licensed games. Like, that they're never going to find them remastered.
I mean, some of them do. You got, like, the SpongeBob games.
Good point.
They got remastered.
But I think we can safely say Blood Plus and Samurai Champloo.
Oh, yeah, definitely not.
How much did Grasshopper even have to do on Contact? Wasn't that mostly like a third, like an outsource kind of thing, or did Grasshopper like really do all the nitty gritty on it?
I think
on Wikipedia it says developers, and they're the only ones credited as developer.
Because I'm pretty
Or
sure
like maybe they had a B team, like the A team did the 3D games, and the B team did like the DS
Yeah,
stuff.
it is the B team because like I know for a fact that like Suda barely had any involvement in that game.
Oh yeah, it was
It
a
was
completely different director, and to
yeah.
his credit, I don't think Suda ever tried to take credit for Contact. He was very upfront, like, no, this guy's vision, this guy's
No,
game, good for
yeah,
you.
it's the same as Michigan because it's literally the same director as Michigan.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I have Contact. I started playing it. Honestly, it didn't really grab me. It's unique, but it doesn't feel very fun.
I started playing
Yeah.
it like 3 times, and every time I'm like,
Oh yeah, Michigan's rough.
no, Michigan, I beat it
I'm
like
talking
a
about
trillion
Contact.
times. I love Michigan. It's so
I think I'd
fucking
have more
bad that
fun
it's
playing Michigan than
funny.
Contact.
Oh,
Yeah,
Contact.
Michigan. Yeah, Contact is just like an overhead isometric game where you explore things, find things, and go back to the ship. And the
Oh, is it sort of
gameplay
like
loop was feeling very
is this
tedious.
is it sort of like Moon, kind of like that kind of way?
Yeah,
But
that's pretty
I mean,
accurate from what I've played.
the director did work on Moon as well. He was
That makes a lot of sense. I did play. I bought Moon as soon as it came out on general principle. I had to support that. And
yeah,
looking
I did
back,
too.
yeah, and Contact is like from the last time I played it was when I didn't play when it came out. I found it at a convention for like $50, which I knew was a steal.
Oh yeah.
And I played through the first mission. You're basically on a ship. You crash land somewhere. You got to go out and find parts for your ship, and it's a lot of fetch quest stuff. And most of the story is the doctor talking to you on the ship. And I'm gonna say, kind of reminds me of Pikmin in a weird sort of way, from what I remember. Not like with having the
that's the
little
weird
creatures, but
part though.
the loop of the gameplay loop feels like Pikmin
I
and
love
Moon, a lot like Moon.
I love Pikmin. I play the living shit out of Pikmin 1, 2, 3, and especially 4
I
since it
still
came out
need to play
recently.
4.
It is so good. The tutorial is horrible. It takes like 3 hours for it to teach you how to play the game. You don't need that. You already played Pikmin before. You know how the hell it works. I don't know who the hell was in charge of developing like the whole tutorial.
It's like Mario and Luigi Dream Team, where it's like, this is like a 4 hour long tutorial story mode.
Pretty much, it just holds your hand really hard in the beginning, but like once it lets you do your own thing, it is really, really good. But the thing is, I still love Pikmin a lot, but with Contact, I don't know, I wasn't that hooked on it. Maybe it was just because of how much it was like breaking the fourth wall. I guess it was just like okay, it was cute the first 10 times.
But yeah. But to say the funny joke about with Samurai Champloo and its price now these days, if you're not looking for used, on Amazon, the last time I looked at it and got a picture of it was $149.91. So probably roughly just $150. It's like, oh, I'll just have that lying around.
Yeah, so I think the games have become rare not because sadly they're great games, but because they're oddities that can only be played that way. They're not digital. That's your only option.
Yeah. Well, they can be digital in a other way.
Well,
we
quote unquote, but not officially.
Yeah, we not officially, and we do not support that. Even though we kind of do. Fuck those people. But yeah, Samurai Champloo will never probably see the light of day again anywhere, possibly. But that's a good thing at times for both the anime and the game. Like they're products of their time. They did what they wanted to do, and it obviously led to better things for both. The anime for Watanabe, because he would do later stuff anyways. He still probably will do something else in the near future, I bet. And then, and again, Samurai Champloo, and as I said, I still found a mechanic in this game that influenced No More Heroes 3, for Christ's sake. Like, that is surprising.
So, in closing, do we have any interesting thing that stood out to you from the original character Do Not Steal route, or did we pretty much touch on everything?
I will say the most thing with Warso, as he's probably the most kill the pass you'll find in this game, because he has to deal with his whole clan basically fighting itself to death and trying to put things to rest, even if it means, spoiler alert, killing himself at the end.
Yeah, I guess. Why isn't the character in the show? And there you go. We can't have people asking that question now, can we?
And we also, there's still gonna be a lot of questions because one of the two bear gods that get summoned, they actually do mention the Kamui, by the way. Like,
oh wow, that I really don't remember.
Yeah, they mentioned Kamui, but it's not the same one, but it's just some bear gods. And one of the bears is a normal, natural bear, and then there's a giant robot bear. Don't ask.
Normal, I don't think. Yeah, I bet you asked Dude about that. He'd be like, "Really? I don't remember that."
Oh yeah, I bet Suda barely remembers much he did on this now. Especially the story writing, because again, probably him and Oka went back and forth so many times and going like, "Oh, you do this, I'll do that."
Yeah, it'd probably be an interesting expose to find out what went into the development of this game. Like, how much was they allowed to do? Did Bandai step on their toes? And
I can actually probably look that up for you because I can find the book. Let's see if I have that book nearby.
You mean the book on the game or the instruction manual?
And it's gone.
I have the instruction manual. The instruction manual really doesn't say much at all.
Quill, what time is it for you?
5:30
a.m.
Yeah, well, I think. Do we have anything else we should really touch on with Champloo, or we pretty much covered all the bases of it?
I could probably end things off by reading the little section in the Grasshopper.
Sure.
The
the Art of King book. Oh, I forgot about. I wasn't sure what book you meant. I was like, oh yeah, I have that book too. But if you got yours handy,
yes.
Okay, by all means, take it away.
Okay, so this is. I'm assuming this is probably Suda who said all this.
I believe so. Yeah, he was very candid.
This is an original scenario game adaptation of the anime Samurai Champloo. Duh. It is a hip-hop samurai action game where attack combos change by changing music tracks. You can play as Mugen, Jin, and original character, Warso. Which, if I looked at this back then, I wouldn't have been surprised when I played it. But, we were given the chance to make games for already popular works, again, Samurai Champloo and Blood Plus by Namco Bandai. By making these two games, we naturally made No More Heroes next. Both are slasher action games, so I think we were able to take advantage of the know-how to make No More Heroes. I think that being able to make those two games became something like a framework for our action games after that. Samurai Champloo was the first shot at making an action game. Before that, Killer 7 was an action adventure, so it wasn't really a slasher in other words. It was our first time making an actual fighting game, which I do kind of want to see that from you guys. I want to see an actual 2D fighting game from you guys. Unlike Blood, we made Samurai Champloo after the anime had been aired. That's a new thing I did not know back then. So during Blood Plus Last Kiss, the anime was still airing, at least in Japan. But this game for Samurai Champloo, it was made after. And then anime director Shinshiro Watanabe, incredibly popular overseas, so he wanted to make it a project that would sell in America too. And there we go. They're already planning to make this sell in America.
Ooh. Yeah, it definitely has that we need the Western money vibe. Whether or not Namco was integral in that or not, but I have a feeling it was, considering how much it pushes Adult Swim and Cartoon Network and all that.
And then here we go. I met with Watanabe. In the original, the three characters are on a trip to find the samurai who smells of sunflowers. But in handling that, Edo is a key word, so he wanted us to be cautious in handling that. Besides that, though, he said to do as we pleased. So while in the anime story they're heading down the Kyushu, we didn't use any anime story very much. I wrote a very completely original scenario in which they're headed towards Ezo. I also created Warso, a prince-like Anui character, it was a really interesting title as an action game. So while I don't know if you call it a hidden gem, it was a popular among those who played it. The rhythm action elements as connected to the slash actions. So while fighting, you can change the soundtracks with the L and R buttons. If you change, wait, L and R buttons. Did it change with that? I thought I changed it with the directionals. Oh well. If you change the track, then your action combos change too, which makes for an interesting challenge that I think is rather unique even now. I want to use it again in something. Ooh, let's see you keep a word on that one, Suda. But as I said, Sword of Tension did come back in No More Heroes 3. So maybe down the line, in whatever next action game he does, we could see Rhythm again.
And as by the way, if you haven't read the GHM books, anyone listening, get the book by any means necessary. He is unbelievably candid. Like he did not give a fuck about what he said. He's very blunt, for better and for worse.
I don't think he was rude or anything about it.
No, he wasn't rude, but he was very candid. Like with Shadows of the Damned, he went for the jugular. He's like, this is not like I went through hell trying to make this. EA kept canning every concept I had, and he basically stopped shy of saying "fuck those guys."
Yeah, that's where most of the information came out about the different scripts and how Black Knight's sword was based on like the third script and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Messy.
And also the Shadows of the Damned section is huge. There's a lot of artwork in it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it sucks how much that art was not even in the game too. Then like, ugh.
Yeah, you can tell how much they had to suffer to make it, and then I feel bad for them. And it's amazing we got as good a game as we did out of it.
And it's definitely funny looking at the first page of the book where it's just Let It Die and just like one sprayed art page. Like, man, early Let It Die. Man, what a time.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess we've said all we can about Samurai Champloo. Unless anyone has anything extra they'd like to add?
Not really. Just watch the anime. It is really good.
Yes.
I really
the anime's
loved it.
Not everything. Yeah, I love the anime. It's not everything I want it to be, but it is a solid show. And especially if you like Watanabe, it's a must-watch.
Yeah, Watanabe, at the very least, you're going to get something you have not seen from anyone else. 100%.
Exactly. And on that note, I guess we'll probably keep posting what we're going to talk about next. And maybe we can do an episode on Blood Plus because I know Jack about it, and I would love to experience it somehow.
Yeah, I'll definitely play it myself. And luckily, a speedrunner by Adrian VG, he actually did play it recently, and he has posted a walkthrough of that. So we can look through that when we finally play it ourselves, so we don't get lost in our terrible knowledge of Japanese.
Yeah, maybe we'll just struggle through it as a group. We'll see, but we'll keep you posted. But I think a Blood Plus episode sounds fun. So yeah, on that note, we'll probably wrap it up here. We'll go out on some Nujabes beats because R.I.P. Nujabes, he did sadly pass away a few years back, but he left one hell of a legacy. And so, without further ado, this has been CJ Wakura.
This has been Infinite.
This has been Quill.
And Kamen Sentai.
So yeah, as always, the cast, they're not dead, and neither are the cats. And keep an eye out for those sunflowers.
Meow.